Alright folks, today we're going to talk about sleeping positions and discuss 3 principles and a lot more. Alright, so if you're waking up feeling like you've just been through hell and back, you may need to investigate your sleeping posture. Now, just as always, I may be looking at my notes, so if I look down, that's why I'm looking down. 2 quick notes. First, a medical disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional, so do anything I say at your own risk. Please do your own research. I don't want any of you guys to be hurt. I'm telling you guys what has worked for me as well as what I found through my own research. So that research may be incomplete, and you basically take it upon yourselves to double check everything I present to you. But hopefully, that said, you'll find this a useful presentation. Second point is please check the links in the description. I will have a lot of links. There'll be anything from studies to just people's like blogs to fitness folks. It'll be a whole mix, and it'll be pretty heavy on the scientific studies part. That said, that may not be the latest word, but I think it's a good starting point for you guys to start looking at, and get your own bearings on this stuff. So before we dive in, I just want to say that I spent a lot of time trying to put all this information together for you guys, and there's going to be some stuff where so think of it as like 3 areas. In one area, there'll be obvious advice, and then in other areas, we'll have absolutely no information, and there'll be like the middle area where it's conflicting or we're not sure what actually is going on. So what I found pretty frustrating is there's a stunning lack of easily available information and studies on optimal sleep positions across the gamut of situations and factors. So I did find some specific things, and I'll talk about those. But if you want to talk about like all the variety of sleeping positions and all the health conditions and all the possibilities, like elevating your feet, not elevating your feet, it's very fragmented. So there's studies here and there with isolated things like acid reflux, but not large-scale studies. So to the scientists and future scientists watching this video, here's my challenge to you guys and what I would love to see some of you guys do, which is to conduct the studies to essentially create a matrix of this sort where you have all the possible sleeping conditions and variations. So back, left side, right side, stomach, elevated. Now this could be head elevated, feet elevated, some combination. H stands for hammock, and many others. So this is just like a very minimal table. So you probably want to have, I don't know, like 10, 15 conditions. And then for elevated, you might say, should it be 10 degrees elevated, 20 degrees elevated? So there's really a lot of conditions to test in this dimension here. And what I have going down are sort of things to keep in mind. So how does this affect various conditions? Like, are these good for certain? So does this help with your alignment, with acid reflux, with snoring, breathing, etc.? So I would love to see this table. So I'm going to fill it out as best I can with you guys. And where I'm unclear, I'm going to put question marks or give you guys basically comments on where I found the current data to be, and also inject some of my thoughts into it. But I'll try to let you guys know when it's just my opinion versus what I've found. So these studies that I'd like to see, they are badly needed and would be fairly easy to do. I mean, easy to do in terms of scientifically. It may cost money, but the science is not very complicated. So like I said, I'd like to study all of these as measured against these and what the recommendations would be for folks. So, okay, so I want to dive right in. I'm going to talk about 3 principles, as far as I can tell, for good sleeping positions. I want to give you guys the principles so that you can figure it out for yourselves. One of my goals on this channel is to synthesize information and not just rehash stuff you can find elsewhere on the internet. In other words, I'd like to add value to your life, and as well as share my discoveries. All right, so after doing all this research and thinking and reading about sleeping positions, there were at least 3 things that I've noticed. So first of all, and I didn't even write this down, so this is really number 0, which is different people have different pre-existing issues. So you're going to have to match these principles against your individual needs. All right, so that said, for most people, here is what I found are three major principles. Number one, and this is the most commonly talked about one, is your spinal and joint alignment, right? So if you're sleeping all contorted, that's not going to be good for your spine and joints. So we want to have natural positions and avoid contortions and have spine lengthening, basically good postural positions. Now, number two, this is less talked about, except for certain conditions, but this is going to be internal functions. This is going to be good organ function and circulation mainly. So for example, the left side, sleeping on the left side might be better after a heavy meal for digestion, but the right side may be better for breathing, and the back may be better for spinal and joint health. For example, sleeping on your hand may interfere with your blood flow. So there's going to be all of these factors. All right, so we have spinal alignment, spinal and joint alignment, then the internal organ function, which is going to include blood, circulation, heart, lymph flow, all of that stuff. And we're going to have to break that out. And number three is going to be your environment and safety. Now, I'm largely going to ignore number three. This is more of an issue if you're in a sort of like in the wild. So for example, if there are insects or if there's natural conditions like cold or wetness, you may need to protect body parts and be in certain postures for safety. You might want to have your ears exposed so you can hear danger coming. And I've included in our articles below. So like most of the things I'll say in this video, you should be able to find more just by going to the description. All right. Now, about the only thing that people agree on from what I've learned is that the stomach is terrible for sleeping. So you don't want to sleep. So on your back, in the literature, it's called supine. Stomach would be called prone. So you don't want to be sleeping on your stomach. That's pretty much terrible for alignment. So I'm going to put 2 X's to indicate that's pretty much agreed on universally. And you can just go into the links and figure out and see why that's bad. But it basically, your head and pelvis, everything's going to be out of whack. It's not great. So for the rest of this discussion, I'm not even going to fill out the rest of these. Although I will say I did come across that it might actually be better for sleep apnea and snoring. That's about the only thing. And definitely, from what I've come across, if you're pregnant or babies. All right, so for the stomach, maybe if you tried it once and you're an average person, you're not so this says pregnant. So if you're a pregnant woman or if you're a baby, those are, I'll put in links, those are definitely not recommended. Those are considered quite dangerous from what I've come across. So for the average person, the stomach's a no-no, so I'm going to just ignore, I'm not going to fill out all of those other things. So let's go through the rest. So one of the themes is for every sleeping position, there might be pros and cons. So for the left side, I've experienced this on myself, and there's widespread agreement on this that it's better if you have digestion issues, especially acid reflux. So I had acid reflux and sleeping elevated. So for acid reflux, I'm going to check elevated and left side because that actually helps. So the science is your stomach moves out to the left, so it's actually better for your digestion. So it prevents food acid from coming up. I won't go into the details, but if you have acid reflux or you ate a heavy meal or you didn't eat a heavy meal but you ate recently and you want to go to bed, sleeping on your left side may be the best bet. Now, you've noticed that I have these pluses over here. The pluses indicate proper supports. So when I say back, left side, right side, stomach, I'm not talking about just regular left side. So the plus means you're assuming you're properly supported. So let's discuss what that means. So on the back, if you're lying flat, you may want a slight support for your neck so that it's not, your neck isn't just kind of going, your head isn't like falling into like this into the bed. So you might want like maybe a small shirt or a towel to give you a little bit of support here. but not like a big pillow, because then you're gonna crunch in your neck this way. So that's what the plus means. So you might want a slight neck support and something under your knees. That's going to make sure your knees aren't stiff, but also they're a little elevated, and it's gonna, one of the main reasons for that is to make sure your pelvis is in a aligned position with your spine, because if your knees are regular, your pelvis might be going this way, and you want, by elevating your knees, you're going to ensure your pelvis is more that way. All right, so for the back, I'd say many people are going to say this is one of the best things for alignment, so we're definitely going to give that a check. Now, for reflux digestion, it may not be but again, this is only if you're having issues. So if you don't have issues, you don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to put an X here, I'm going to put an X here, and I'm going to put an X here. All right, so in terms of alignment for your left and right sides, I would say if you're doing it properly, so what's properly? So you would need 3 supports. So what are your 3 supports? First of all, you want a proper pillow. Now, I use a memory foam pillow, so it curves according to the contour, so it's a little higher going into the neck than it is here. So get yourself a nice pillow. You may want to put something between your knees, that's your second support. So I'd say the pillow is the most important. Something between your knees is going to help, and I'll include videos, so if you're unsure what I'm talking about, go to the links in the description. So something for here, something between your knees. And the third one is for your arms. So if your arms are in like a weird position, that's no good. So you may want like a pillow or something where your arm can be in this natural position. Or if you have a partner, you know, like a husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, that person may serve as that support for the arm. So you have the neck, the knees, and the arm support. So those are the 3 supports. So I'll give the back 2 checks, and I'll give each of these 1 check. If you do these right, they're pretty good, but the back might win out in terms of purely for postural alignment. All right, now in terms of alignment, we're gonna have these elevation factors and hammocks, and that's really, I'm gonna put a question mark. So I looked at a lot of stuff and I'm not sure. All right, so the left side is also great for your lymph system, because your spleen, basically, in Ayurvedic medicine and in a lot of studies basically have shown that there's better drainage, or at least what I've come across. So that to me is pretty solid, so I'm going to recommend that. Now, what do we have? So breathing, snoring. Okay, so let me fill this out really quickly, and then I'll sort of talk about it. So for snoring, the back is actually not great, or for sleep apnea. So you're going to want either your left side or your right side. Now for breathing, this is controversial, so I've come across mixed advice. For breathing, we're talking about general breathing. Now, what I mean by that is for healthy people, normal breathing. I've come across conflicting things, so it's not clear at all for this. So for this one, I'm just going to say that breathing on your back might be a little harder, so I'm going to put a question mark because I don't really know for sure. Let me use that green color. And we have the left side and right side, so I'll put a check there for both. And for the stomach, I'm just going to leave that stuff blank over there. Because like I said, the stomach is not advised at all. So in terms of the heart and the circulatory system, so these are a little bit, so this is the lungs and this is the heart and circulatory system. And I've come across so much conflicting stuff, I'm not even sure what to recommend. So let me tell you what I've come across. So from personal experience, I know that I breathe better and my heart feels lighter when I sleep on my right side. I don't know how accurate this is. I know in Islam there is supposedly a recommendation to sleep on your right side for heart issues. And this actually has been supported by a study or not a study, but I'll cite something where people that have had chronic heart issues report preferring to sleep on the right side. So either they have heart surgery, I don't remember, but look in the description. So there is evidence for that. Now, anecdotally, see, the problem is there's a lot of people with theories, and you'll read a lot of theories online, but there's often a lack of evidence. So theories might say that, well, the heart will have an easier time pumping if you're on the left because it's not gonna have to work against gravity. But the counter argument might be, and Dr. Berg has said this, which I'll link that in the description, your liver, which is huge, is pressing down on your heart when you're on your left side. So that's a counter argument, and it's saying that maybe you should sleep on your right side. I came across this martial arts blog. They recommend sleeping on your right. So honestly, I think we need more studies. Personally, I feel better in terms of breathing and my heart on my right side. So I'm gonna put question marks kind of all around here. And I'm gonna maybe give it two check marks, but with a question mark, because I really don't know. So anything that has a question mark is uncertain. If you have heart issues or just purely for breathing, maybe I go with the right side. But there's conflicting things. So some, Ayurvedic medicine, for example, is a heavy proponent of your left side. And in terms of evidence-based Western medical studies, I've seen mixed things. So I'm not clear. All right. And in terms of the stomach, we just said because it's so bad for alignment, I'm not even going to bother with the rest. In terms of the lymph, we're going to say that, sorry, this has a check on the back. I meant to say the left side. So we're going to give the win to the left side. And we'll put these as, maybe we'll put one check here and one check here, but we'll put two checks. So the left side is probably going to win out in terms of the lymph drainage. Okay, so in terms of what I've come across, and I'll cite everything that I saw, for pregnant women, there's a recommendation to sleep on your side. It's SOS, sleep on side. So left side or right side, and I think one of the American, one of the American medical associations prefers the left. So I'm going to go with the left, and it might have to do with feeding the baby and stuff like that. So I think left and right are both acceptable from what I've come across, but left would be better. They don't recommend sleeping on the back. In terms of babies, the stomach, again, is a big no-no. They found that that's associated with SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, I believe. So that's quite dangerous. So they recommend actually the back. So I'll put two check marks here and one check mark for these. So from what I've read, they recommend for babies on the back, unless the baby rolls over naturally, in which case you can leave it there. So that's what I came across. So for the average person, what should the average person do? I'm going to put a question mark. So I think on your back supported, left side supported, or right side properly supported, those are all options, and you guys should experiment to see what works best for you. So if you have a specific issue, like if you have trouble breathing or heart issues, maybe you want to try the right side. If you have acid reflux, I definitely recommend the left. I know for myself, I've tried sleeping on my back a few times. I have trouble falling asleep. If you can fall asleep, it might be better. In fact, there's actually this is of lesser importance, but some folks that are into lucid dreaming or having stronger, crazy dreams, sleeping on your back might be better for that. So I'll just throw that out for what it's worth. So I think these are all good options. So I really should put a check, so the only thing we can eliminate is the stomach. So now let's go into, in terms of snoring and sleep apnea, elevated, so I'm gonna put a check here. That will be for your head. So, like in hospitals, I would imagine they elevate you because they don't want all the fluid and they don't want all the stuff going into your lungs and your head. So that's why they don't really care if your legs swell up a little bit. It's more important for the main organs, the brain, the heart, to be propped up. So that's why I imagine you'll see people propped up a little more in hospitals. So I'm gonna go with a check there. For breathing, I'm gonna put a check here as well. So if you're elevated, that may help. But you know what? I'll put a question mark. So there's a lot of stuff that's unclear. I'm going to kind of leave it at that. Let me tell you what else I've found, and you guys can judge for yourself. So what I want to do is show you some things you should be thinking of, some factors. So there's alignment, internal function, all this stuff. Okay, so let's keep going. So as I said, the left side and the right side are sort of like medium for alignment. If you can prop up yourself properly, they may not be too much worse than sleeping on your back. Many folks claim that for alignment, the back was the best. But like I said, you have to weigh that against the organs. So maybe that's going to outweigh the alignment benefits. So I'm not sure. And like I said, so on the back, if you're into dreaming or lucid dreaming, that may be better for that. There's one technique where it's better if you're on your back. So, but remember to prop up your body properly for alignment, no matter which of these three positions you choose. So, which position you pick might depend on your priorities. Maybe mix it up. So I know growing up I slept mostly on my right side and I loved it. It could have been because I was facing the window on my right side and maybe I felt more oxygen, felt nicer. I'll include I came across so many things. So for example, like monkeys sleep every which way. A lot of monkeys sleep on their side. Some monkeys sleep standing up. I mean, some people, there's cases of some people when we talked about like safety, some people sleep on their shins. So that's been documented. I'll leave it at that. So what you don't want to do for sure is make sure your body's not contorted. You're not cutting off your circulation. So like if you're sleeping on some body part and your body feels numb, like falling asleep tingly, that's probably not a good thing. And if you have pelvic tilt issues, anterior or posterior pelvic tilt, that may also have to do with how you're sleeping. So you may want to check what position you're sleeping in. Now, here's an important point. Many fitness trainers will look at the posture you're in as you're on your back and say, we recommend sleeping on your back. Or maybe on your side if you have 3 supports. Here's my issue with just saying like, well, your spine is aligned, so great, sleep on your back. Remember in the introduction to this health series, I recommended being a generalist. And a lot of fitness folks, or fitness trainers, not all of them, but a lot, are just looking at one angle. They're just looking at spinal alignment, but they're not maybe considering the internal function. So, like I said, if you have like acid reflux or you have breathing issues, breathing on your back, sleeping on your back rather, just because that's good for your spinal alignment doesn't mean that's the best position. So there are other factors. Make sure you're thinking about all the principles. And so, in terms of fitness folks just looking at the spine alignment or physical therapists, I don't want you guys just looking at one discipline. So for example, a bodybuilder can look great on the outside, but can be riddled with health issues on the inside and feel terrible or be falling apart. So for example, not all bodybuilders, but many can be 2 seconds away from diabetes or have fertility or hormonal issues, but you wouldn't see that. You just see a nice, pretty muscular exterior. So perhaps there are trade-offs and we need to vary our sleeping positions from back to left to right side. Maybe try every other day, like one day sleeping on your left, one day on your right, or a week on your right, a week on your left, a week on your back. See what works better for you. So like I said, for me personally, I'll usually sleep on my right side unless I've eaten a big meal or have indigestion, acid reflux, in which case I might sleep slightly propped up and on my left side. Side note, if you're just really tired, and I may make a video more on this later, you may want to just lie down on the floor on your back and prop your feet up on a couch. And you'll feel the blood rushing from your feet. That can reduce swelling. It can actually help you fall asleep really quickly into like a 30-minute power nap. And I'll include an article that also talks about perhaps having variety in your sleeping position. And by the way, humans naturally toss and turn a lot during the night, so maybe we have a built-in mechanism to produce variety. So I also came across this really wild article. I don't know how many of the claims to believe in there, but it's worth taking a look. But use your own common sense and do your own research. But they talk about if you're elevating your head, that can have a lot of effects. So they claim, these are not my thoughts, that strokes are clearly associated with brain pressure and usually occur at night or early in the morning while sleeping. This is when brain pressure is highest. They talk about like glaucoma and Alzheimer's, and even having like a curved nose, maybe if you sleep a certain way. So they mention a lot of diseases and a lot of issues that may be associated that I didn't even think of. I don't know how accurate this is, but I just want to bring it up. So I don't know if let's say if you have like a curved nose or whatever, I don't know if that's from sleeping, genetics, injury, who knows. But do your own research. But in any case, this elevated business, I think it's really worth exploring more and seeing like, are you better when you're a little propped up, on the head, the legs a little propped up? Play around with it. Unfortunately, I haven't come across great studies that really examine everything against everything. I've heard talk about wrinkles and sagging body parts depending on sleep position, but I haven't seen studies supporting that. So I'm putting that on your radar. You may want to look into that. I don't know how accurate these claims are. All right, so now also hammocks. Hammocks are a really interesting thing. Just to save you guys a lot of research, I've included a ton of links, and what I found a little suspicious is almost like 80% of what you're going to read about hammocks, they're saying, oh, there's all these benefits. And by the way, I think there might be, so you should definitely explore. There's a lot of evidence for rocking helping you go to sleep faster and maybe having better deep sleep. But a lot of the stuff keeps citing this one paper which only examined a 45-minute nap. So that does not translate to a whole night's worth of sleep. So I just want to emphasize that all these papers are linking to the same single paper that was done with only 10 people. Technically it was 12, but 2 dropped out. So there's 10 people in the study and they only studied a 45-minute nap. So just be careful, in the research. Don't just say, hey, I found a paper, so look, I should do this. I really had to dig real deep into these papers to see how accurate the science was myself. And, and I have a fair amount of like sort of analytical training, and it can get very confusing. So that's why I really want to see more studies. But I mean, there's evidence. So why might rocking be good for helping you go to sleep? As babies, we were rocked. It could be a psychological thing from when we were babies, but it could be a deeper neurological thing where there's a synchronization of your neural networks with the motion. So I don't know, but there's good basis for the rocking element to. So my thoughts on hammocks at the moment are you might be getting a plus with a minus. So on the plus side, you might be falling asleep better, and it might actually help a lot of problems, but I'm not so sure it's the best for postural alignment long term. You have to do your own research, maybe try it out, see if it works for you. So like for example, I came across one paper where they measured postural alignment in people that regularly sleep in hammocks versus don't. And so they found some significant differences, except unfortunately in the paper they didn't tell us which direction was better. And I'm not knowledgeable enough to conclude that. But also maybe it's a little ambiguous as to what is preferable. Maybe there is no best. So I'm going to cite all the stuff in the description and you guys take a look. So, there's even a paper of like studying babies sleeping in little hammocks, and they found in a randomized controlled trial, they found not much difference except babies slept a little bit less, but ultimately I think they recommended avoiding them for safety reasons. So like I said, you got to go through the research yourself. I'm just putting all these issues on your radar so you know what to even think about when exploring this question. So in short, for hammocks, you have rocking factors, which I didn't list rocking under principles, but that could be a principle of like rocking being sort of good for you, but maybe that could be a bad thing as well. So you have the inclination factors, which might affect your blood and lymph flow and breathing, as well as posture and alignment factors. I think you have the hammock stuff, not just hammocks, but like unusual configuration beds, ergonomic beds. All this stuff is worth looking into, but please beware of misleading hammock testimonials. In my research, I came across a lot of websites, a lot of blogs, a lot of stuff that kept citing just one thing, and if you dig deeper, you'll start to get very suspicious. So test it for yourself, and we need more data. or at least I couldn't find them. Maybe the data's out there and someone can let me know in the comments, but I couldn't find the right data to give you guys a definitive recommendation. My current take is that they're probably great for naps, but there might be trade-offs for regular sleep, and we need more. Not sure. The answer is I don't know. So then I found, for example, one study that mentions that sleeping on your back may help with dry eyes. There's so much information, and like I said, all of it's scattered, so we really need all this in one place. And my hope is that this sort of 2D chart and going through some of this is an attempt to begin this conversation so that researchers, folks, can start putting this together in a more understandable way for people and not just looking at one angle. All right, so let's go to other factors. We talked a little bit about this. The short of it is you should experiment with back. I don't know if you guys can see. So the short of it is there's the back, sleeping on your back supported, left side supported, right side supported, and you should experiment. But let's talk about other factors. There could be psychological factors. So for example, like I said, for me, maybe your nose might want to face the side with more air towards the window. Or if you're facing a stuffy wall, it could give you a feeling of comfort, or it might make you feel like claustrophobic, and maybe you want more openness, or maybe you want more safety. So there could be a huge psychological component that I haven't even touched on, and that to my knowledge hasn't been investigated properly or at all. Another thing, this is just, I'm throwing out a lot of stuff just so hope maybe some of this stuff will be new for you guys. I've come across stuff from the Ayurvedic perspective where they talk about not sleeping with your head north, if I've gotten it correct. And that's like a cultural, religious aspect. The claim is it has to do with Earth's magnetic fields, I believe. I'm deeply skeptical. I'm not going to completely dismiss that, but I'm not going to buy that argument until there's some good studies that have, under controlled conditions that have studied this stuff. So it's worth exploring. If this sounds good to you, go for it. To me, it's like a very loose theory trying to justify something that there's really not much evidence for beyond anecdote. Now, and of course, if you're gonna go look into this, I'll put a great article. If you're in the southern hemisphere, that might have to be reversed. Okay, C, so Feng Shui. There's a lot of principles. To me, that's one of those gray areas where, so Feng Shui is a principle in not all of Chinese culture, but a lot of Chinese culture so Feng Shui is a principle whereby you want to move things around in the home in a certain way because they create a certain energy. So for example, you might want your head facing a wall rather than an open space, or you might want to put your bed placement and body position in certain places relative to the door, window, and wall. And that's just the beginning of it. It's really a really huge topic, and I'm not going to even begin to cover it. But I think there's a lot to it. And so my initial impression is that it might be a mix of pretty good psychology, physiology, but maybe also some problematic metaphysics thrown in. I'm not really sure, but it's definitely worth looking into more. And even if it just makes you feel good, that's got to count for something, because if you feel better from how your room looks and is situated, everything's relative to everything else, that could have a deep psychological and biological effect. So I honestly have not done enough investigation, but I encourage you guys to study this more. I'd love any suggestions for getting deeper into this if you're a fan and can have really great resources for Feng Shui that you can throw out. So let's talk about one of the last items, which is co-sleeping. So whether it's with a dog, a baby, a romantic partner. So let's go through a few of those really quickly. So in terms of studies, they found that having a dog sleep in the bed is going to disturb your sleep, and that's not good. But if a dog is sleeping just in your room but not on the bed, that's fine. Doctors don't recommend co-sleeping with the baby. So if the baby's up in the bed with you, a lot of what I've seen, they don't recommend that. However, if the baby's in the room in its own crib by you, that's fine. And in terms of just on a lighter note, for for if you have a romantic partner, you know, you might want to sleep in a certain position, but if they've had a bad day and they want you to cuddle with them, or they've fallen asleep and they may have digestion problems, the choice of which side or to sleep on or like on your back may be out of your hands. So that said, I think we've covered a lot. So we talked about alignment, we talked about organ functions. So there's your breathing, your heart, your circulatory blood system, your lymph system. The left might be better for drainage. I also want to stress, so if you're going to go on advice, whether a doctor is saying it or whoever, I encourage you guys to do your own research, really track this stuff down, because even for people with credentials, they'll often have theories, and the theories may sound compelling, where like, for example, if you're on your left, well, the major heart valve or something empties out to the left, but then, you know, you'll have folks that had chronic, that had heart issues, and they prefer sleeping on the right. So, you know, what is the evidence? We need some like randomized controls evidence. We need some evidence, some studies, so that we can get to the bottom of this. So this is not going to be the definitive end all, you know, video on sleep positions, but hopefully, you know, in 2017, for now, from the research I've done, from the videos I've seen, I've tried to put a lot of this stuff together in one video. So I hope that this encourages you guys to, you know, study this further, and hopefully someone else makes an even better video and there's more studies, and I want to see like a more definitive take on this stuff so people can have actionable advice. But, you know, this was my first attempt. I think, I hope I've done a useful service in getting this discussion going. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. So last thought, so please, I think I've stressed this enough, but please continue to do your own research and let me know in the comments if anything I've said helped, or if you've come across it's, you know, additional or new information, or if you want to correct something I've said. I'm not perfect, I make mistakes, I'm learning just as you guys are. I did my best, but you know, stuff happens. So I'm going to provide a lot of links in the description before, if you are going to, like, you know, have an issue with something I've said, or I think it'll be more productive, take a look at some of the links in the description or all of the links, and then come back to me, because I really want to move this discussion forward, and I'm not into like debates or saying, oh well, this culture or this system or this doctor said. I want to help people, so you know, I hope this helps people, and continue to do your own research. All right, thank you guys.